Hello everyone and welcome back. Today's case is a scary one because it feels like it could have happened to anyone, and it could happen to anyone. I'm sure many of you enjoy going on daily walks or taking a walk to a coffee shop alone or going hiking on a trail alone. But today's case might make you think twice about leaving and going to a remote area all on your own. 29-year-old Lauren Heike was a Washington State native who worked as an esthetician and had recently moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where she was now working at True North Golf Club. Lauren was described by her parents as a beautiful, kind-hearted woman who was sweet to everyone she met. Her former workplace, Admire Medical Aesthetics, described her as being kind and sweet-natured, saying that her beloved clients always looked forward to seeing her. But Lauren's life would change forever on April 28th of this year when she decided to go on a hike, which she had taken many times before, along the Reach 11 trail in northern Phoenix, which was not that far from her home. Just 24 hours later, after Lauren went for that hike, her body would be found off the trail west of Scottsdale Road and Mayo Boulevard by the Pansky Auto Museum. A member of public would end up finding Lauren's body and calling the police, describing the state of her body as heinous. And just like that, this beautiful, smart, adventurous girl who just wanted to be independent. She just moved to the area. She was finding new places to go. She loved to go out and explore the outdoors. Her life was tragically and brutally taken from her. But thankfully, the police moved very quickly in this case, because just days after the discovery of Lauren's body on May 2nd, police would release a very grainy surveillance video of the suspect running from the area near 6500 East Libby Street.
She loved to exercise. She was walking, and we know she was happy. She went out that morning on a beautiful day to do what she does every day. I talked to her the night before.
We just need help. Find whoever did this.
What a void it leaves for us. But we also know that this dark period, we'll have her memories, and we will love her every minute that we are on this earth.
Yeah.
You know?
She was my little girl. I'm gonna miss her terribly.
And DNA on Lauren's shoe, along with cell phone data, would eventually lead to the man in the surveillance video being identified as 22-year-old Zion Teasley. It turns out that Zion lived with his mother and was arrested at their home in Scottsdale, a home that was only a mile from the crime scene. It also turns out that Zion's mother works as a surveillance officer at the Judicial Branch of Arizona in Maricopa County. So what happened and why? Why was Lauren dead? Why was this 22-year-old being implicated in her murder? Well, investigators would eventually piece together the grizzly attack, and it was as bad as you can imagine. They determined that morning that Lauren had died, that she had been chased by Zion down the Reach 11 trail. And when Zion eventually caught up to Lauren, he began to viciously stab her from behind with a pocket knife. Lauren would suffer 15 stab wounds to the back and chest, and she also had multiple cuts on her hands and her arms, indicating that she fought for her life. There were so many defensive wounds showing that she fought as hard as she could to get away from Zion. Investigators also believe that at one point in the attack, Lauren was chased through a barbed wire fence, and they determined this due to the state of her clothing, and they also believe that at some point in the attack, Lauren eventually got away, but she ended up dying from her wounds. Lieutenant James Hester was quoted saying, and I quote, "I believe she fought him off and she was able to get away, but her injuries were too severe for her to continue," end quote. Lauren's belongings were also found scattered down the Reach 11 trail. Police also have footage of Zion sprinting away from the scene and then eventually returning and climbing over the barbed wire fence. All of this because Lauren had decided to go out and go on a hike by herself, enjoy the nature, get some exercise in, get some fresh air, start her day off on a good note. But for some reason, this 22-year-old decided to take her life from her. So who is 22-year-old Zion Teasley? Who is this absolute nutjob? So that DNA that police ended up finding on Lauren's shoe ended up being ran through police databases, and it actually matched to previous felony convictions that Zion Teasley had. Police then went to Zion's former workplace, where workers there ended up identifying the clothing in the surveillance video as stolen merchandise. It also turns out that Zion had been fired from that job for multiple different reasons, including being aggressive to other female employees, as well as theft. But it gets worse than that, because in June of 2022, Zion had been arrested for robbery with a deadly weapon, kidnapping, and disorderly conduct, but he was listed as a medium to low risk offender, and then was also given a plea deal, which meant he only had to serve 3 years in prison. But Zion wouldn't serve all 3 of those years because he eventually would be released in November of 2022.
In 2020, police records showed that Teasley robbed Circle K stores 7 times, in some cases, armed with a gun. He faced 13 charges, including kidnapping, burglary, and armed robbery and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. All but 3 were dismissed as part of a plea deal. The deal consisted of a 3-year prison sentence followed by probation. That deal has come into question in light of what Teasley is now accused of. Phoenix police say Teasley murdered Lauren Heike in broad daylight as she was on a walk. Teasley now faces first-degree murder charges.
And on top of all of that, Zion was actually an ex-Marine, and I wouldn't even really call him a Marine because he'd entered basic training in San Diego back in March of 2019, but then he ended up dropping out 4 months later. So he didn't even do much. He just went to basic training for a couple months and then left. So in the end, Zion would not actually give a real motive of why he killed Lauren. I don't know if we'll ever give one, but he did admit to frequenting the area where he'd killed Lauren, and then at one point he also claimed to have killed her because he wanted to look like her, but I've never seen that being like an official reason why he killed her. When he was arrested, it was also reported that he said, and I quote, "There's no freaking way I'm in here for a sex crime. I haven't been with anyone for a long time," end quote. So he was essentially denying essaying her, doing anything of that nature, and as far as I've seen, police have said that there are no signs of SA, so at least there's that. The probable cause affidavit also stated that during Zion's interview, he spoke about growing up as a Christian and his internal struggles with his own sexuality. It stated that Zion was concerned about the salvation of his soul due to his thoughts. And when Zion was asked if he had planned to kill Lauren, he said, and I quote, "I am definitely not the person who plans to kill another person. If I was going to do something like that, it wouldn't be premeditated," end quote. Now, despite Zion trying to seem innocent in some way, it also turns out that he had gone ahead and booked a plane ticket to Detroit, but he claims it was because his aunt had died, not that he was trying to flee the state, although it really definitely seems like he was trying to flee the state. As of now, Zion is being charged with breaching his probation as well as first-degree murder, and that's kind of all the information that we have at this moment. But I want to end this video by having a bigger conversation with you all because I think this case is incredibly scary. And I wanted to bring this case to you all today because I think it is a great example of a tale of caution. I think it's something that we can all learn from. I myself have loved in the past going for walks by myself, especially late at night. I used to do that in Florida. I used to do it in Toronto. All the time when I was a teenager. I used to go for hour-long walks, just listening to music. And I would love to go on these walks at night because I felt like I could have alone time. There was no one out, so it was just very peaceful. But then you hear things like this happening in broad daylight, and it really makes you think, should you be going out and wandering in more remote places or times of day, such as night when less people are out, by yourself? I don't think we should all ever live in a state of fear of going out on our own. I think independence is an amazing thing, but it really makes you stop and think, should I be more cautious about certain things? Because you never really know who is walking along these trails with you, who is walking down these streets with you. You never know who is near you. It doesn't seem in this case like he had stalked her or anything like that. At least there's no evidence of that at this moment. It could have really just been he had the opportunity to do it and he's just crazy, so he decided to do this. Or this could be a premeditation case where he had stalked her, he found the opportunity where she was finally alone and he took his chances. But either way, I do think Lauren's murder is something that should make us all think twice. Again, I don't think we should live every day in fear, but it's things like this that really make the world seem scary. You're just out trying to have a normal day, and just like that, someone murders you out of nowhere in a blitz attack, and you never seen it coming. She didn't have a chance. She fought as hard as she could, and it still wasn't enough, because in the end, she ended up succumbing to her wounds. Because there are crazy people out there in the world, like Zion, who decide to take it out on other people. But as of right now, that is all the information we have on Lauren's case and on her murder. I want to know how you all feel about this case down below. Let's have a chat about it. And if there are any cases that you want me to cover and talk about, definitely leave them down below and I will look into them. If you are going out alone, please take precautions. If you're in a country or a state where you can carry something to protect yourself with, unfortunately in Canada, or at least in Ontario and in Toronto, we can't. It's illegal to carry something on your person to defend yourself with, which is a whole other topic for another day. And I think it's an insane law, but That's Toronto for you, that's Canada for you. But if you are in the States or in a different country where you can bring something to protect yourself, like pepper spray or a taser or anything like that, I do recommend doing so, because it could help you if you were in a situation where you were alone in a remote area and someone is trying to attack you like Zion did. And with that, if you're not subscribed, I do recommend hitting that subscribe button if you want to follow along on cases like this. If there are any updates, I, of course, will keep you all updated. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.